Hello and welcome, everybody. And today I want to talk about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to save the West. That's right. All you boomers, Gen Xers, and Millennials out there just need to accept a very important fact. I know I do. I'm a Millennial and I need to accept it. And that's the fact that we screwed everything up. We broke everything. Yes, I do lump us all in with the boomers because we enabled the boomers. Gen Xers, Millennials, we enabled the boomers and we were utterly cowardly. Cowards on every level. Just scared that we'll lose the bit of the pie that the boomers let us have. And it was pathetic. And we're being punished for that. Unfortunately, our children, the alphas, the Gen Zers, they're going to have to deal with that. But they're not like us. Nah, not like us at all. They're actually fighters. They look at the system. You can't control them with words. All you had to do to control us Gen Xers, us Millennials, and to keep the boomers in line was use words. Scary words like racist. Or like you're lazy. And all these words were enough to hold us in line and make us work for a system that was actively trying to destroy us and destroy our way of life and eventually replace us with foreigners who weren't Christian. That was the whole point. And all they had to use was words. Scary, bad words. That's how cowardly we were. I don't care if you went off to Iraq or whatever, you were a coward. You say, oh, I fought bullets. So that, yeah, you know what? And you achieved nothing. Your friends died for nothing. You have made a world worse off for your kids, and you fought enemies halfway across the globe who are nothing compared to the enemies right here on the ground, right here. Prove to me you're not a coward. Do something, soldier boy. But we know you won't. You'll whine and complain. You'll make your YouTube videos, sculling, praising your own edifice to your great masculinity, but you're too cowardly to fight the enemies at home. Apparently, you can't fight anybody who's only a degree above the Stone Age and has like one AK-47 for 5 guys and explosives they got from fighting the Soviets in the 80s. You couldn't beat them. And you won't fight anyone with any better training than that. You won't fight the true enemies at home. So I don't want to hear it. Your masculinity is fake. It's fake. It's bravado for nothing. And the proof of this, you don't have to do anything military much. You can just do ROTC like I did. And the one thing they'll smack into your brain early, before they even give you a gun in your hand or do anything like that, is no heroes. Now, why do they say no heroes? Because they mean it. You have no cause. The cause is getting back and being able to spend the money, be able to use it as a mobility in the bracket. You start your political career, start your career on YouTube saying, oh, I was in the military, blah, 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 right? That's the exchange. It's just mercenary. And guess what? If a mercenary dies, if he's a hero, he doesn't get to spend his stuff and he's got nothing. There's an innate understanding in the military that what they fight for is nothing. It doesn't have a cause. It doesn't have a purpose. It's mercenary work. It's imperial work. It's forcing the colonists to stay in. And you can't have heroes in that situation because heroes in that situation start to question things. They start to go, wait, why are we killing these people again? Why are we fighting again? Why are we back? Why did we lose this ground again? What are we doing? And the funny thing about heroes is they're not cowards. They're not. So the funny thing about heroes is they're not cowards. When they come back home, they'll fight at home too. And it won't be just with words. See, that's what's different about Generation Alpha and Z. They're not scared. They're not scared like we were. They're not materialist like we were. We mock them. All you hear is this negative talk about them. They're lazy. They're on their phones all day. Blah, blah, blah. First of all, of course they're on their phones all day. We've taken away all the things that they've had fun to do. Like they have to stay inside, or they could get shanked by a foreigner, or some guy fresh off a boat, or just a dude who knows he won't get arrested till he's shanked like 10 people. Right? They have to stay inside to survive. Some of them live out in the country, But even then, right, there's all these laws and rules and things just squeezing it all out. You can't just go out and hunt anymore. It's not how it works. Right? There's all this stuff just hovering on the outside that are forcing them indoors just for practical reasons. So yeah, they're on their phones all day. So, oh, but they're not working 12 billion hours a day. You shut up, Boomer. You shut up, Gen Xer. You're a materialist coward. They don't want what you have to offer. Why should they work 12 hours a day for something they don't want? They don't want your material life. They see what you have. They see what the Boomer has. They see what the Gen Xer has. They even see what the Millennials have. And they go, why did you work for that? Why did you work your whole life for this useless thing that you can't take with you, that's just crumbling around you? You wasted your life for this? This is the the Gen Alpha, the Gen Z response to the Millennial, to the Gen X, and to the Boomer. Your materialism is vapid, and we hate it. So why would we work for it? If you want them to work, you're going to have to give them a reason to work. Every hour that a Boomer, that a Gen Xer, and a Millennial like me has put into this system, I don't care who you worked for, I don't care what you worked for, is another hour for the devil. You worked for the devil. Every single dime you made was taxed and then put towards an abortion clinic. You put those babies in the grave and you did nothing about it. You were cowards, and you did it just so you can have that small piece of the pie that the Boomers let you have. Coward. Me, you, all of us. We were cowards. If like, just abortion, right? There's a billion other things I could bring up. But let's just concentrate on that. If abortion is murder, and they're murdering babies next door our entire lives, we are the biggest cowards that ever existed. Ever existed on the planet. Do you think that our forefathers, you think that the ones who fought over like stamp taxes would have sat there knowing that babies were being murdered next door? You think they would have sat there? They would just, oh no, the cops told me not to do it. You think they would have done that? Nah. We all know it. We all know we were cowards. And let me make it clear, I'm not telling anyone we should do violence right now because it's too far. Because Millennials, because Gen Xers, because Boomers, we have been so cowardly that it's better now to let the system collapse and then take over when it's done. And Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they're smart. I don't even have to tell them to do this. They're doing it on instinct. They're just waiting you guys out. You call them lazy, they're just patient. They're just waiting for you to die. Why should they work really hard to get a piece of the pie when the pie is going to fall in their lap after you're dead? They're going to have to fight over it, but they're willing to fight for it. And everything they get now, right, it's going to be taken away by inflation. They're not going to be able to afford a house or anything of worthwhile, so they might as well just wait for you all to die out and then take it when you're dead. What motivation do they have to work into this system? It's a pyramid scheme. They say it's a pyramid scheme. We all instinctively know it's a pyramid scheme. We all know it's going to fall apart. That's why you guys are obsessed with saying things like, oh, it's the apocalypse. Christ is coming back. And you know what? Christ is king. And he's saying, not yet. Not yet, Boomer. Now what? That's the thing, right? If it's the end of the world, well, you didn't really need to work hard. You didn't need to change anything. You don't need to repent. It's the end of the world. What are you going to do? And Gen Xers, it's like, oh, anyone in our positions would have been just stuck and whatever. You know, Millennials are just freaked out and stressed out and like, just take us now. We're worshiping death. That's the Millennial sin. We worship death. We just want it to end. We don't want to fight back. We just want it gone. And that is just as evil. I tell you that. I had that. And it's funny. I think a lot of Gen Xers' eyes will be open if they actually listen to that. Your children, the Millennials, want death. They just want to die. Your children, Gen Xers, I think this will be an eye-opener for you. They want death. They just want to die. It's all over in the memes. Have you not seen them? Have you not seen the memes? Have you not seen the YouTube that the Millennials make to share amongst themselves of like just death coming in, uncontrollable, unstoppable death coming for them, and them just smiling at it like, thank you, finally. Not caring about achieving anything, not caring about building the kingdom of heaven, not caring about it, just wanting it over. That's the life you've made for your kids, all right? And that is the coward's way out. You know, I'm going to rant on my fellow Millennials, including me. I had this. Christ took me aside. Jesus took me aside and smacked me around on this. He put me through hell, literally, to the point that we had to prematurely potty train my kids. Two of my kids were definitely not ready. And let me tell you, we're dealing with a lot of messes because I couldn't afford diapers. We could not, just not like, oh, I could like move around money. No, there was no money for diapers at all. There was any money, like I spent my last few bucks refilling our water bottles. And drinking was more important than diapers. Water. Drinking water was more important than diapers. And at that point, God took me aside and went, why are you finding all your value in what boomers and Gen Xers call you? Why are you calling yourself lazy? Why are you doing this? Why? I am the one who creates your value. And, little side note there. Follow the link in the description if that really speaks to you, especially if you're a Generation Alpha and Generation Z. Okay, Christ is the answer. You wondering how you're going to win all this? You're going in like, I'm going to fight. I'm going to die. I don't care. I'm going to fight. Well, let me tell you how you win. You win with Christ. Don't forget what you've seen in the old churches, the boomer churches, the cowardly Gen X churches, the death-worshipping millennial churches. You go to Christ, the real one who's calling to you, and you will save Western civilization. And it's going to be beautiful. If I survive long enough to see it, I'm going to smile. Just seeing what you guys build. It's going to be amazing. It infuriates me how everyone is just negative on the next generations because of their own weakness. Boomers don't want to see that they've destroyed the world, right? They don't want to see that they've destroyed their world. They don't want to see it. So, for them, the next generations must be horrible because, well, guess what? If the next generations are horrible, then it's not their fault, right? It's their fault. Gen Xers, well, they don't want to see that they were cowards. They don't not want to see that for just that little bit of the pie, the crust that they had to work their whole lives for, that the boomers just kind of gave to them on the side, right? Just for that, they fought like dogs, and they worked like dogs for worthless materialism, and they were so scared to fight back. They don't want to see that. So guess what? You guys have to be lazy, disgusting. You just won't work. You just won't do this, right? That is the Gen X mentality. And again, not everybody, but a lot. And even, Gen Xers, guys, I'm actually more positive on you than what this video would think. I respect a lot of you. But you gotta understand, the world that Gen Alpha and Gen Z are going into is completely different than even you understand. Like, even if you guys worked hard, you had a chance to make something. Right? That's gone. Alright? Those work hard jobs, they don't exist. The only thing that working hard does now is prepares you to be replaced by Pajit. Be replaced by Juan. That's all it's doing. That's all it is. Or AI or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. And I'm actually pretty positive towards AI. But again, working hard is just dying. And that's why millennials are stressed out. We don't see any way out. We're not willing to buck the system or fight. So we're just, take us now. Well, if we're just going to work ourselves into a grave and achieve nothing and give nothing to our kids and just be giving constant debt so that the boomers can live high for the rest of their lives and Gen Xers can pretend that, nothing could have been different, then we just want to die now. That's why we worship death. So that goes right into millennials. Stop. We gave up. Gen X lied to themselves. Millennials gave up. We gave up. We're just like, take us now. Whatever side of the spectrum we're on, we're like, just kill us. Get it over with. We don't want to be here anymore. And now, that's why I am so impressed with Gen Alpha and Gen Z. Because they went into a world where the previous generations have screwed everything up. Millennials, Xers, we enabled the boomers. We let them make it happen. And don't say, oh, nothing could have been changed. No, if you put Generation Alpha or Z into the shoes of the Gen Xers, this would be a wildly different place. Millennials even. Not as much. We didn't have as much power, but they would have at least gone down fighting and wouldn't have just worshipped death and gave up. That's just the sheer truth. And I'm being harsh on us because we're not harsh enough on ourselves, guys. Yes, boomers horrible. We all have a right to hate them. But we have to be introspective and realize what we're doing. these insults of the next generation is coming from our own inadequacies. We're lying to ourselves. We want to believe that nothing could have been done different when we know fully well that we failed bad. And that's why we insult the next generation. And it's sad. I don't like it. I want millennials to stop worshiping death. Yeah, we're old. We're not going to be able to fight as well, but we can still as heck do something for the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs before their fight starts. We can build a little bit of something. We can be useful. And Gen X, stop just calling everyone lazy. Just stop saying, oh, you think you should have something that a 40-year-old or 50-year-old man has. No, mother trucker, Gen Alpha, Gen C, look at you and realize they'll never have what you have. Even if they worked for 100 years, they'll never have what you have. Even that little crust that you got from the boomers, they'll never have that, no matter how hard they work. It is luck of the draw, and usually sacrificed to a demon of some kind that gets them those few 1.5%, whatever it is, that actually make it in their generations, and they know it. And they know it. And you're not going to be able to convince them otherwise, because they see it, and they see your life, and they see nothing about your life that they want other than just a little piece of something to live off of. And you don't understand, because you remember how hard you worked compared to the boomers, and the boomers mistreating you and all that. You don't understand that you still had it way better than Gen Alpha and Gen Z had it. You don't get it. So get it now. You guys didn't experience hunger. They're going to experience it. You guys have been terrified of the society collapsing around you. Why? Well, because, you could have your little crust and maybe live it out. You can maybe do the zombie apocalypse thing and be the old man in the woods with all the guns, maybe. Maybe you could just do that, right? Well, you know what happens to those guys? They die alone. As those movies show, by the way. You die alone. Or the annoyingly diverse group of people take all your stuff. They're actually right about that. They're trying to make that be your life. You understand? Now, I know, I was like, well, what do you want us to do? Blah, blah. I want you guys to take a step back and realize how much harder it is for them, but how much more willing they are to fight. No one has gone for more propaganda, more attacks than Gen Alpha and Gen Z, and they've spat in the face. Unlike us, unlike you, they have taken those nasty words that controlled millennials, that controlled Gen X, that controlled what boomers were willing to fight back, and they've laughed at them. They have laughed at them. That is strength beyond words. That shows they're not cowards. That shows they're not afraid. They're not afraid of this coming conflict because their life's going to be a little better and they see the conflict coming no matter what. Unlike you, unlike the millennials, unlike the Gen Xers, unlike the boomers, they knew they can't kick it down the road, but they're not scared of it. They're not scared of it. They're just waiting for it. And that's impressive. That's why I know if they'd been in Gen X shoes, maybe even millennial shoes, things would have been different. Things would have been way different. And, that's a bitter pill to swallow. But it's one we have to swallow. And once we do, and, I'm mostly talking to Gen Alpha, Gen Z, because they've been crapped on by everybody. And I want you guys to know, deep down, you're being crapped on because the previous generations are scared of you and they're impressed of what you're capable of doing. Their minds are broken that you're able to resist all the propaganda that's controlled them their entire lives. It breaks our minds that you're able to do that and you're willing to fight back. Right? But again, millennials, Gen Xers, I'm harsh with you guys so we can take that repentance. We can swallow that bitter pill. Go, yes, we could have done better. We could have not been cowards. We could have not worshipped death and just given up. We could have done better. 100%. We could have turned to Christ sooner. We could have turned to Christ harder. We could have not been such cowards about evil around us and fought back. And things would have been immensely better. Wouldn't have maybe even an entire destruction of the nation of U.S. might not even been necessary, right? But we didn't do that. And now Gen Alpha, Gen Z, they're going to have to clean up our pieces of our mess. And 100%, it's the boomer mess. But boomers were able to do what they did because we enabled them. We let them do it, and we fought over the pieces of crust and crumbs they sent our way. And it's like they made us dance like monkeys the entire time. And, don't call Gen Alpha, don't call Gen Z lazy. They're smart. They realize that They are anything you can give them. Those crumbs that the boomers are going to give them for working their brains out are just going to be taken away from them. So why work for them in the first place? What's the point? Like, why should they? Why should they work just so it's taken away from them and given it over to Pajit? Or given to an old boomer who then loses it to the government who then gives it over to a Pajit? Why should he? Why should he work? You shouldn't have worked. You get that? You shouldn't have worked. Every hour you worked built the system around you. Every hour. Every minute. Every little crumb you got back, an entire loaf was given to the devil for his schemes. And you built that. And you're going to have to answer for that. God's not impressed with your work. God wants more than you to work hard. He wants you to work for him. And we have not worked for him. We've worked for our own benefit and our tiny little materialist pie, our little bit of the pyramid scheme, the pie just before it's gone. And you know what, Gen Alpha, Gen Z? We're given that option to say, oh, work for your tiniest bit of the crumb. And they went, no. No. What are you going to do? And the answer is nothing, because the boomers have always been a paper tiger. They have always been a paper tiger. They've been as weak as any generation. They barely had any war. They lost the one war they went into. And only a small part of their generation went, and the majority of them jumped ship and jumped the draft. They dodged the draft. The majority of them just danced around at Woodstock. Hippies don't make a good army, bro. We let the cowardly of the most coward generations control us because we were bigger cowards. And that stings something fierce. I know it does, but it's reality. Now, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, go a little easy on us. You guys are really impressive. You're really tough. You broke that propaganda in a heartbeat. You looked at it, you laughed in its face. I am so impressed with you guys. But we need to work together on this. Try not to get too mad at the old fogies calling you lazy. You know, whatever. It angers me every time I hear it, every time I see it. And most of the time, it's done out of ignorance. So you need to go to Christ. He will give you the strength to not only fight back, but to win. This isn't a situation, I know a lot of people don't understand the Bible, but this isn't a situation where God is giving over the entire nation to be destroyed. No. This isn't even a remnant situation, young men and women. This is a generational conflict. The boomer generation is like the generation of Israelites who were useless that God killed off in the desert. You are the generation of Joshua. You are conquerors. And God has raised you up for this moment. But without him, you will fail. Now, you may fail in a very spectacular way, but you'll still fail. So don't fail. Celebrate life. Go with Christ. Christ is king. He will make it so that 1,000 run from your sword. One will make 1,000 run. And 1,000 will make 10,000 run. We white boys, we Christian boys, we have always been outnumbered. Always, and we always will be. But God is always on our side. So, again, one last time. Follow the link in the description to a video if you want to follow Christ and you want to get an idea where to go with that. Gen X, Millennials, sorry for being so harsh. It is what it is. I'm swallowing that pill myself. And boomers, well, get used to it. Everybody hates you. And, yeah. Thanks for showing up. Like, subscribe. I do sermons on Sunday. I'm going to start some other stuff. But for now, this is going to be my first, I guess, political rant video. Thanks for showing up, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.